Hello YouTube, my name is Matthew, and I want to talk to you a little bit about Unity 2020. Unity 2020 is a campaign that has just been launched very recently. The person who came up with the idea was Brett Weinstein. If you keep in touch with the intellectual dark web, you'll obviously be very familiar with the Weinstein brothers. And I saw Brett Weinstein was interviewed by Tucker Carlson on the subject. He was interviewed on Rising by Sager and Jetty. He was on the Joe Rogan Experience. So he's been out and about trying to get this idea out there and trying to see if drum up support and whatnot. And then there was also an article. I don't know if he wrote it himself, but I know somebody involved in the campaign wrote it. It is titled "The Articles of Unity: A Patriotic Plan to Save Our Republic." So I just read a little bit of it. Imagine it's November 4th, the morning after the election. How will you feel? If President Trump is returned to office, will you feel that your future is secure? If Vice President Biden is elected, will you feel that the nation is in capable hands? Now imagine instead that a courageous, competent pair of patriots take the stage, a team not beholden to any party nor beset by conflicts of interest, a team driven to build a future where our national vision is clear, our plan is wise, and, for the first time, every American is fully included. This scenario is one that an overwhelming majority of Americans would prefer, and the very real possibility stands open before us. And then it goes into reasons why the current socio-political system we have in the United States is failing. How the two-party system has dominated, and how the two-party system is basically destroying the republic. Just because of all the corruption and the fact that the two parties don't really listen to the people. Then it says the solution, #Unity 2020, what is it? We, the people, draft two candidates, one from the center left, one from the center right. Once elected, they agree to govern as a team. All decisions and appointments will be made jointly on the interests of the American public. Only when they cannot reach agreement, or when a decision does not allow for consultation, does the president decide independently. A coin flip determines which candidate runs at the top of the ticket. Candidates must meet these three criteria. They must be patriotic, they must be highly capable, they must be courageous. After 4 years in office, the order reverses for the next election. This continues until the American public chooses an alternative administration, or one of the members of the team cannot run for re-election, at which point a new patriot would replace them. So, basically, what Unity 2020 is doing is it's saying, okay, people don't like Donald Trump, people don't like Joe Biden, so we're going to run, there's going to be a third option, and, so one of these candidates would be running as the president, one would be running as the vice president, but they would, once they got into office, they would almost always act as a pair. Like they would always, one person would always consult the other, except in very special and perhaps dire circumstances. And this is another thing that should be added. We don't have like the particular candidates yet. But one of them, the center-right candidate, Brett Weinstein has, suggested two people. And one of them is, for the center-left position, would be Anthony Yang. And then the one for the center-right position he advocates for is Admiral William McRaven. So he thinks that both of those people are patriotic, highly capable, and courageous. So this is very interesting, because in multiple ways. It will be interesting to see if it gains traction, because the platform of that campaign, I think, is one that could gain a lot of traction because many people are fed up with the system, quite rightly. It's also interesting in the sense that, I've thought before about having two people be at the head of a country rather than one. Because basically, in the United States, we elect a king every year. Now, that's not exactly true, of course, because traditionally speaking, kings have been hereditary and they've been in, for life. But that's basically, the idea of a president is kind of like a watered-down version of a king. And there's an interesting parallel. In the ancient Roman Republic, there were two heads of state, two consuls. Now, that the ancient Roman heads of state are different from the proposed heads of state that the Unity 2020 campaign is thinking of, because in ancient Rome, one person was concerned with domestic policy, the other was concerned with foreign policy. For these candidates, if they were to be elected, they would both be concerned with everything, pretty much. So I'm really, I'm going to be keeping my eye on this, and I wish them well. I would not be, if they were able to get on the ticket, that is probably who I would vote for. Now, I think, I suspect that Brett Weinstein and many people, the intellectual dark web, they think a bit differently than I do. There are certain changes that I think need to be put into place that I think they would disagree with or view as too radical, or since I do kind of consider myself a radical leftist of sorts. So in some sense, it is this proposed solution that Weinstein suggests is not my proposed solution. But it is a solution, and it would probably be a far better option than either Biden or Trump. Now, it's going to be very hard for them to get on the ballots, of course, because, both parties try to make damn sure that no one deviates from the two-party dichotomy too much. This is why Bernie Sanders hasn't been successful. And I agree. Sometimes when I listen to Weinstein, I almost feel a bit pessimistic after listening to him. But he believes, and I think he's right, that our country has a lot of problems, and the world has a lot of problems, and if we don't fix it soon, there could be dire consequences. All of that is true, and I respect Weinstein greatly. And I have to think about this because a couple weeks ago, and probably several months ago, when I figured that, Biden's going to be the Democratic nominee. I was like, okay, I'm just not going to vote for Biden. I live in the state of Kentucky. A vote for Biden in the state of Kentucky really wouldn't matter that much. Therefore, I'm just not going to vote for him. And I said, well, if I lived in a swing state, then yeah, I probably would vote for him, but I don't, so I won't. And then when President Trump used the armed forces against protesters, I said, well, maybe I do have to vote for Biden now, because I think that using the armed forces against protesters goes way, way over the line. That is not something a president should do. That's borderline authoritarian, in other words. But if there were a viable third party, if Unity 2020 was able to get off the ground, I would, without any qualms, vote for them. Not necessarily because that's the that's the solution that I want in the long run, but because any step away from this two-party system is probably a step in the right direction. Because this two-party system we have is just so toxic. It doesn't respond to the needs of the common person. It certainly serves the interest of the benefactors of the Republicans and Democrats, so the donors. And it is, I can't. My disdain for the two-party system is I'm almost not able to articulate it. And this goes back, of course, George Washington warned about the dangers of political parties. I'm reminded of a book. It would be, let's see if I can find it. It was titled "The Party is Over." Here we go. "The Party is Over: How Republicans Went Crazy, Democrats Became Useless, and the Middle Class Got Shafted," by Mike Lofgren. If you haven't read that book, that's a great book. I would highly recommend that. But that kind of explains why the two-party system has become so toxic, if you'll forgive my phraseology. So, I think that's about it. I wish Unity 2020 well. If they're on the ballot, I almost certainly will vote for them. I hope that they would be able to succeed. I'm a bit pessimistic. It might take many tries to actually actually get a third party in power, or to get reforms to this system, or to come up with a completely new system. But yeah, I had to get that out there. I wanted to get my voice out there on that matter. So thank you for listening. Hope you're doing well. Stay safe during coronavirus, and take care.